Beto O'Rourke, the heir apparent to Hillary Clinton in the sense that he's going to be the Democratic nominee and then lose the election to President Trump, perambulated for a 2-hour interview with Jenna Johnson at the Washington Post this week. And Jenna found some fascinating things about this man who has so closely allied himself with the issue of immigration, made that kind of the forefront of his campaign and will do so when he runs for president. She asked him about solutions to what you do with people who overstay their visas. And Bill and Steve, he has an answer for this. And the answer is, I don't know. And then he goes on to say, we need a debate. We need a national conversation. Stephen Green, this is just one of many issues in which Jenna Johnson, the reporter from the Post, discovered that Beto O'Rourke, after 6 years in Congress, doesn't have any firm opinions about things and merely wants to start a national conversation and hold a debate. My question for you is, will this matter at all in a Democratic primary?
Wow, of course not. Of course not. We all know, based on what our Democratic friends have been saying in Texas and California and everywhere else that all the money came into Texas from, is that he will make a great senator and now a great president because he looks kind of like a Kennedy. So
big teeth.
Yeah, big teeth. Who needs a platform when you got big teeth? Here's what he's trying to do. He's trying to do a Barack Obama. Obama, kind of exploded on the scene with that really stunning, stellar address to the Democratic Convention in 2004. But what you didn't get from him was much of a platform. We're going to have some kind of health reform that's going to save you money. We're going to reject the old ways that got us into this mess in Iraq and all the rest. He didn't actually say very much. But what Obama had was the skill of saying very little lovely. He could talk, He had the gift of rhetoric. He was smooth. He was eloquent. He could go on a 90-minute speech, content-free virtually, and in his own estimation of himself, have people project onto him what it was they wanted to see. It was a magic act, and the whole country fell for it twice because, well, it's a democracy. Well, it's a democratic republic, and we have to hold these elections, and people are human beings. We are fallible. So Beto O'Rourke thinks that he can kind of sneak his far-left progressive stuff past the American electorate. But what he doesn't have is Obama's gift for saying nothing in a way that keeps you captivated. He couldn't even captivate a Washington Post reporter for 2 hours. How is he going to captivate the American electorate during a 3-month election?
Well, Bill Whittle, that interview, as he was perambulating, I believe, Laredo, Texas, was periodically punctuated by people approaching the potential candidate with requests, pleas that he would run for president. It's not clear from this article whether Beto knew what he was doing and basically was being cagey about it and refusing to give answers because he doesn't want to be nailed down, as Steve suggests, on his actual progressive ideology, or whether his 6 years in Congress has borne so little fruit that he actually doesn't know what to say. Representative Luis Gutierrez, one of his colleagues in Congress, was quoted as being very pleasantly surprised to see Beto O'Rourke's sudden interest in immigration in 2017. Now, coincidentally, Beto O'Rourke was running for the Senate in 2017. And when you have one of your Democratic Latino colleagues, not that Beto was Latino, but Gutierrez, saying, I was very pleasantly surprised, and then following up by saying, I like to take people as they are and not kind of drag out where they used to be, you've got to wonder whether he's just holding the real progressive stuff for the campaign or perhaps never going to mention it on the trail. So Bill, is this going to make a difference in, and let me put it this way. Republicans are mocking him. Should we be studying him?
Well, I think what we're seeing here is just a repetition of the trend we've seen throughout the entire course of American history, which is America copying trends and fads that were started in Canada, and therefore Beto O'Rourke is our Justin Trudeau. Now, let me explain to you how this works. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Scotty, but I'd like you to very quickly think of the most difficult question you could ask me. There's something that I have no possible way to answer at all, none. It's got to be an absolutely unanswerable question.
Can't be related to the average weight of an English sparrow? No. Okay. Oh, man. You're just asking me the most difficult question that you could possibly ask.
Right. So ask me how much, what is the approximate mass of the sun?
What, Bill, might you speculate is the approximate mass of the sun?
You know, Scott, I don't know. But what I do know is that there needs to be a national debate on this issue, because I think this is something that's been going on for so long. And I think that so many people don't know what the approximate mass of the sun is. And I've been saying for quite a long time now that it's time that we really started to take this issue of the approximate mass of the sun seriously and come to some kind of consensus about what that mass might be, what kind of prejudices or biases we might have when trying to measure the mass of the sun.
Is it too big to fail?
As president,
is it too big to fail?
Well, I think that remains to be seen. I think that's going to be dependent on the outcome of the debate. But I would like to say that, you know, if I ever do find myself elected to high office, I certainly think, and I think most Americans think, that a vigorous national debate on the approximate mass of the sun is something that I would begin, I think, immediately in the first 100 days of my first term. Now, what I've just done there is I basically convinced you that I'm a very thoughtful guy, but the bottom line is I don't know jack about the answer. I don't even know if I know what the sun is. I can tell stories like that because that's the gift of politics. It's the gift of saying nothing. Well, as Steve said, it's a gift of saying nothing while appearing to be sincere, and it's the appearance of intelligence. And this is why I say Beto O'Rourke is the American Justin Trudeau, because Justin Trudeau is superb at this. At least he was before people caught on. Trudeau is so good at this that he actually convinced me. He went to a science center early in his, it's not presidency because that's what real countries have. What is it? Prime ministership? Yeah, okay. So one of these little, British things. But he went there, and I saw the report on him there, and somebody said something about Mr. Trudeau, and he said, look, because it was a quantum computing center. He said, let me just explain to you real quickly what quantum computing is. Quantum computing is the ability to entangle data with them. And he just lists off this one thing, and all of the progressives just swooned. And I had to say to myself, I said, look, I have to admit, it's pretty cool that this guy knows what quantum computing is. Well, as it turns out, that he had memorized, like a script, he had memorized the Wikipedia introductory paragraph for quantum computing. And when he went to the press conference, he was expecting to be asked about quantum computing, and nobody asked him. They started asking about policies. He said, does anybody want to know about quantum computing? And they didn't. They didn't. So finally, after 3 or 4 questions that were not about quantum computing, somebody asked him something about budget, productions or something. He said, I'll get to that in a second, but first, let me just explain to you about quantum computing. And then he read what he had memorized, and the entire left swoons. Not because he knows what quantum computing is, but because he's such a handsome young guy who knows what quantum computing is. And it turns out they're half right. And the part that they're right about is the part that doesn't matter.
Well, I think that Beto O'Rourke is trying to ease into this presidential campaign. And, basically his advisors are saying, take your time, not so fast. And so he's decided to be half-assed.
Yes, that's exactly right. Well put.
And what he's doing is actually something I believe that the Republicans need to study, because I think the Republicans have not yet caught on to the notion that most people are not reading white papers and they are not consulting experts from the blah, blah, blah institute inside the Beltway about issues. And frankly, most of them don't even, if you ask them, why are you a Democrat or why are you voting for this president, they would give you answers that had nothing to do with policies, plans, principles, the future of the country, or anything. I have a feeling about this guy. I trust him. And what Beto O'Rourke is basically playing here is he's saying, first of all, I trust the people. That's why we need to have a national conversation. Secondly, I'm not arrogant like the sitting president of the United States, so I'm not going to tell you what we should do about this. I'm not going to impose my will on you about this. I want to engage people. He's been part of a legislative body for 6 years. The Washington Post, by the way, said that his contribution to immigration policy during his 6 years in Congress has been, and I quote, negligible. So, and this is his
negligent.
This is his key issue. So we mock, and well, we should, but we also ought to watch our flanks, because this is the kind of thing that plays very well with the American public. It's more about who he is than what he believes. It's more about how he makes you feel than what he actually says. And by saying things that sound, I want to make a distinction here between reasonable and reason. I'm not saying he's logical. I'm saying he sounds reasonable in the NPR sort of way. Mm-hmm. And the reasonable voice of a charismatic young man with salt and pepper hair who looks like a Kennedy is going to carry him far. I don't think that the Washington Post story will be seen by the Beto O'Rourke campaign as a brushback pitch. I don't think it will have any impact at all. And he will move ahead apace and, I believe, exceed his rivals in the Democratic Party. I may be proven wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I'd also love for the Republican nominee to run against Beto O'Rourke. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making Right Angle possible.